Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. I'm Brandon.
And Mom, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about the Connors. Specifically, we're going to talk about the season finale of the Connors.
Yes, this is season 6, the ending of it, and this episode is titled Less Money, More Problems. And Mom, I hope you're doing well, and we can dive right into this.
I sure can, Brandon. First of all, in this particular episode, there are kind of three main things that kind of go on. First thing, Becky and Harris, they decide they want to move out of the house, meaning with Darlene. They want to move out of Darlene's house. And then the second thing that kind of goes on in this particular episode is Mark. Mark, as we discovered within the last couple episodes, has been accepted into another college, and he needs to make a lot of money to attend this college. And so he is doing everything he can to kind of find a job. And so he's got two or three different jobs going on. And then he decides that he thinks he can be a repo man and repossess cars. And so he takes his grandfather and he takes Jackie with him, and they go off to try to repo a car and realize that that is not something that they're able to do. And so in the end, Mark does decide that he goes on his own and he kind of sees a quote unquote friend, and he is now quote unquote sort of a computer hacker. All right. And then the third thing that kind of went on was it had to deal with really Jackie and Dan. They're just kind of bored now. And so that's what's going on with him. And then on a side note, Ben was not in this particular episode. He is out kind of marketing his new magazine.
Yeah, and overall, first of all, if you haven't seen the Connors, definitely watch it with us. Comes on every week, but yeah, so this is, I think, such an interesting episode, in ending out the season. And so I feel like we have a lot of closure in this episode, but also like very intentional loose ends.
Yeah, I know. And I guess that's something we kind of disagree on there. You said there were a lot of closures. I didn't think there were a lot of closures in here. I think there are ways to pick up, and so they're getting toward the closure, but I don't think it necessarily closed out for me. And I know Rumor Mill had it, and I think you told me that if if this were the last episode, they had already shot another scene to kind of end the show, and that is something that we talked about and tried to figure out what they could have reshot in this episode to kind of close everything. What were your thoughts, Brandon?
Yeah, I think, first of all, if you haven't seen the show, it's about the Connor family picking back up from the Roseanne series that we just discussed, a few days ago here on the channel. But, I feel like if this had to be the series finale, I don't think it would have ended with the character of Mark going, going to go work for, I was going to say shady company, but it's not really a company. It's just a friend in quotation marks. And I guess a friend of the friend. And so I don't really know how they would have done it. I mean, and what I mean by closures for this too, I feel like the season has been sort of on an arc to at least give slightly happier endings to a lot of the characters. Not to say that they've actually ended the story, but more so that like they're doing the build up to it. And so I feel like this one at least provides like a closure for the season, but I'm glad that this isn't the series finale.
Yeah, I'm very glad this isn't the season finale. So, whatever amount of episodes that they have left, I think they have said that season 7 will be their last season. So, hopefully, they'll pick up where they've left off here and just kind of start to close it together for the upcoming season that's coming up. Yeah, and like what you said, I would hope that the Mark with his quote unquote friend was not the way they planned to end it. I guess my thought was that they maybe would have replaced the whole Mark part altogether and did something a little different there to give it more closure. I don't know if that were the season finale, if this were the series finale.
Yeah, and and I don't think too many things would have changed per se, but I just don't. I just think the ending part would just truly be the different one. I just don't know in which way they would do it. That would change things up just so to give the series ending. I don't think it would have really have done the series or the legacy of even the franchise, just its due diligence and justice. But I will say that in comparison to the previous season finale ending off season five, um, is that I'm glad that we were able to have this season right here to uh, continue on these storylines. But whereas I think the finale from last season with all the little graduation ceremonies, I think that one could have actually worked really well with the series finale. I don't really say the same for this one.
Yeah, you're very right. The graduation one was a really nice closure. They did a nice job with that.
But yeah, and so I did want to speak a little bit about, about, well, first of all, this episode, and then of course in the context of the season. And so overall, like, I know for this episode here, we have, Becky that wants to move in with her boyfriend Tyler, and then Harris who wants to leave and live on her own. And this is just sort of dropped at the beginning of the episode, or ever introduced. And so, like, what were your overall thoughts about this? I know for me, I mean, I think it makes sense for their characters, but at the same, and especially for being a single episode thing, but I wouldn't really want that. It's just the way that it just sort of ends the series.
I know. Well, and I understand for them moving out, that would have put a little closure to, um, well, to Beck, well, to Harris, really, to me, because Harris has proven that she can actually make it on her own. Of course, she does need her mother to co-sign, but it would show that she's been able to make it on her own. And they've given and this season, as we've talked about, that Harris actually is part owner or part, she's doing something very important with the restaurant, and so she does have a means in order to care for herself. Becky, what's nice about Becky is they're letting her go through college, and so she has found someone to be with also, and so this, I guess, that would have given her closure also too. But I kind of like the college angle for Becky.
Yeah, Becky is really a character I think that I've really grown to really enjoy for the Connors, and would probably like alongside Mark probably like some of the favorite characters I like seeing the storylines of, just because she just has really great progression. And so I'm glad that she's going back towards the academic angle that you see her in during the early Roseanne seasons. But but yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of interesting that they had the whole storyline about her moving in with Tyler. But though we've seen Tyler at least I think four times in the season, this episode was not one of those times. He was nowhere to be seen in this episode.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I know. I was kind of having a hard time with that, but then they did wrap it up by saying that maybe Tyler should move in with them there, which would allow for them to figure out if they belong together.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that works out really well for Becky, and not to say that like any spin-offs will happen or anything, but if one could have potentially happened, I mean, I think Becky theoretically could move out with Tyler or by herself or otherwise at really any point. But I think, seeing that they're able to make it together, but still within Darlene's house, I think just works out better. But to the best of my knowledge, the episode did end with Harris still leaving, though.
Yeah. And can we talk about some of the things that we saw progress through this particular season?
Yeah, definitely. And did you want to go ahead and lead with that?
Yeah, I'll lead to it. The first thing I thought was important was Dan selling the house. They talk about in the premiere episode of Roseanne, if I remember correctly, about the house, and so it was a good progression. And we've seen, if you watch Roseanne all the way through, and then even starting with the Connors, you know that this house is very important and how important it is for the family to pay off the house.
Yes, and so they finally did, like I said, pay off that mortgage, and so yeah, I'm really glad that they were able to do that. Like, so long time coming, and I thought it was funny. Just I believe an episode ago, just last week, that when they finally had paid it off, that the insurance company was so shocked, and the Connors didn't know how to react to it. They thought that they were all against them, but so it was nice for them to finally get a win there.
Yeah, it was. At least they have one win with and then what are the things that you like about the season, about this particular season that you thought might be beginning to wrap up the show?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different things in this, and so yeah. So, for instance, we also saw Dan's wife Louise, of course, win the school board election. We didn't really see all too much of that. I mean, that was just sort of loose threads, throughout the season. But I
Mm.
mean, it did happen. But like we were saying earlier, I really like that Harris was able to accept more responsibility, learn things on her own because I feel like her character earlier on in the series, you know, I don't know. I feel like was sort of out the picture. A lot. Like we would see her rebellious side, but then the focus was switched to other characters, and so I'm glad to see that she is more focused now, like a direction with with her life and something that she is actually proud of, and that her and Darlene, her mom, are actually getting along. That they're not butting heads a lot.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I thought, well, that we didn't talk about for this particular episode, but kind of goes with the whole season, is that Darlene realizes she needs people, and Darlene has always been so independent. Go ahead, Fran.
Yeah, I mean that is so true, and yeah, and like we were speaking about a little bit earlier, like I said, just earlier this week, we just watched the first episode of of Roseanne titled "Life and Stuff," and so to see the progression from then to now, that Darlene had always been a character that like you said, really has always been independent. She's always been on her own, and that she doesn't like help from anyone. But in this episode, she finally realizes that I don't want them to move out, not because, I don't think they can do it, but rather that I don't want to be here by myself, and I miss my family. Um, and so it's nice to get that advice from Dan that's like, I've tried to do it, your mom's tried to do it, you know, like we're all going to move on in our lives. And just, sort of cherish the time that we have right now and keep showing up to our houses.
Yeah, yep, that's very true. And then let's see, one of the other things that we talked about was Louise winning the school board, because that was something that kind of showed that she had a life, that she actually was able to do something to contribute to that particular neighborhood that where they live in. And then and then of course Mark, because the college thing comes up all the time in regards to Darlene, and then with uh, gosh, with Becky, and then even with Harris, because Harris was supposed to go to college too, and then money was a factor there. And so then we've got now Mark, who is very trying to go to college, and they're determined to make him the college. They're determined to make him be the first Connor to, I guess we'd have to say traditional college, to go through traditional college, because they did establish that Darlene did go to college. I don't know whether or not she finished it, but they did establish she did go there. Um, and of course, Becky's on her way.
Yeah, and so yeah, I really hope that for Mark, and I think even going into the final episodes of the contest, I think that the focus will be on Mark as he works into it, and so I would hate for the series to end without Mark having been going to some college, even if it's not the college that they're thinking about right now. That he's able to get into some college, get acceptance, or start his first day, or something along those lines, and get out of the questionable job he just started.
Yeah. And let me parallel one more thing. I'm sorry, Brandon. These things are kind of hitting me in regards to Roseanne, and one of them is job selection. And so, if we think about the jobs that they are now selecting rather than being forced to do, whereas like Ben is selecting to work for another magazine company, although he's not a Connor, but he's still selecting his job. And then Dan and Jackie have decided to retire, but they selected to retire. And then we've got Darlene, who doesn't know what she wants to do per se. She just knows she wants to leave her current job, which would give towards job selection. And then we have Becky also, who is selecting the career because she's trying to figure out what she's trying to do. So I guess they're growing out of the thought of these are the roles that we have to have, but this is what we can have.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that is just so true, and I mean, and that's real progression for the Connors, because when it enters into its final season, season seven, that will be the 17th overall, season between the two series. But I mean, but over the course of this time, over 30 years, you know, I mean, we've seen these characters, grow and evolve, and so it's nice that they're finally in a position where they can take ownership over their lives, and that they don't have to do many of the stuff that they had dreaded. And so even like I said in this episode that we had seen, Dan and Jackie want to go back to work, and they were saying, no, 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 you don't have to do that. It's like, no, we want to do this for our own sake, because we're bored now. We've worked all of our lives to get to this point, and we don't know what to do now.
Yes. Yeah, very true. Very true. All right, Brand, did you have any other thoughts on on the Connors?
Yeah, so I did actually want to just make a comment about one thing, and then ask you a final question. Is that in this episode we did not see Ben, as we established, and we did not see him in the previous episode or in the milestone 100th episode, and so that sort of makes me wonder, sort of, where is Ben in this narrative? And I know right now in this episode they'd established that he is, you know, this episode, of course, established that he is marketing his new magazine and whatnot. But I just hope that Ben has a true role to play, like in the final few episodes, because I would hate for like a main character like Ben to be missing for that. Because I mean, I think he's been a character I've really enjoyed, especially over this past year and a half or so on the cards. He's just very comedic, but also very serious at the same time. That he makes fun of Darlene's faults, but yet his own faults are just so humorous and adds to the series, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It's very true, Brad. And what other questions did you have?
So, what are your hopes as the Carnage goes into its final season? It's believed that it will have potentially 6 episodes, and so, like, what do you hope that will be accomplished in these 6 episodes?
Well, I'm hoping that Mark is able to go to college and to be able to find a way or found college scholarships or something in order to actually just go to school and then enjoy himself in school. Let's see, I'm kind of hoping that Darlene actually, like I said, with the career, I hope she's able to find something that she's able to do and wants to do rather than being forced to do for a family. And those are the two things I kind of hope will kind of wrap up. And maybe I'm kind of hoping maybe they'll bring DJ back. I don't know if that's something that they're willing to do or not, but to bring DJ back, or maybe they open a door and they see that um, I'm sorry, and maybe they see that Jackie's son, who she has, forgotten about, um, is there at the door. Maybe he and Jerry will be there. Andy and Jerry will be there, opening the door at the last minutes. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. What do you think, Brandon?
Well, anything is possible with this family. I think we've had like 3 different continuities over the course of this franchise, so I mean, anything's possible. But yeah, I would definitely love to see DJ back, and I think in addition to that, I'd actually want to see his family again, because I feel like they
Mm-hmm.
just sort of gradually disappeared off the series. First his wife disappeared twice, actually, at the end of season 1 and end of season 3. Then he disappeared, and then his daughter disappeared off the series. And so I'd like to see like the 3 of them together, even if it's just a video chat to them that's only 10 seconds. I think at least to bring some closure to them, and to at least show that they do exist again. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what I would want, but I also want them to have like a true ending. But I don't know if I want them to go too extravagant, like how the original Roseanne series ended. I kind of would just like
Mm-hmm.
them to make it seem like, um, yeah, they're just going into the next phase of their life, but that they're just going to continue doing what they're doing, but in a better place than when we first saw them in 1988.
Yeah, I said that sounds great, Brandon. So I guess we'll have to talk again in, gosh, a year from now in regards to how they end the series.
I know, so we're going to have to tune in and find out. And it actually, I do have one more hope too, is that I hope they do update the theme song for the final few episodes.
Yeah, I can see them ending on the theme song.
I think that would actually be a fitting end for the series. If there's any Connors writers out there, feel free to take that into suggestion.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Uh,
and I will just say one last thing as we're closing out is, Mom, what do you think about the season 6, opening credits? Since I do know that you like theme songs.
yeah, actually, I like it. I like that they moved to tacos. I think it's kind of great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just fits into the Roseanne, the Connors. I mean, intro theme. I know they had to make it shorter for time, but I mean, I'm just glad that at least we're able to keep the integrity of it, the names in there, and I mean, I think it goes well.
Yep, I think it goes well too, Brandon. And then for those who are listening today, let us know your thoughts. What do you think? What did you guys think about this particular season finale?
Yeah, let us know and watch with us as we enter season 7, and like you said, just about a year from now. So, I guess we'll see you then, and be sure to check out our other videos.
Yes, please be sure to do that too. Hope everyone has a great evening or great day.
Yeah, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye bye.